G'day. Welcome back to another episode of the Best of the Rest podcast with Sticks and Freezer. How are you, Freezer?
Good, Sticks. How are you, Cover?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Could be better. Could have had a race on the weekend, but...
Yeah, weekend off.
Yeah. So, got to find something to talk about.
Oh, I had so much spare time, not F1 bound.
A weekend to chill and relax.
Yeah, weekend away for Easter.
Right, so what's the plan today? What are we going to chat about?
A bit of a run through of what we predict the 2025 driver lineup might look like.
A little late to our predictions. We got a few races under our belt to fine tune our selections, but
Look, we're not perfect.
we got there eventually.
I don't think the 3 race insider is going to help our predictions too much.
No, maybe with one driver, but
Yeah.
I think we'll be sitting pretty.
Rightio. So I guess we'll start with a few of the drivers that are on the sidelines that could be some thoughts for people that are thinking about who might be jumping into the lineup for next year.
Yeah, there's a bit of chit-chat going on about rookies and whatnot who might push for a seat next year. So who have you got?
So a couple of people that we've noted is you got Lawson. So Lawson's obviously had a couple of races in there for RB or AlphaTauri at the time.
And promised a seat for 2025, supposedly.
Yeah, there's supposedly was a little agreement there for him to sit pretty on the sidelines. He should get a seat in the near future.
So I guess if they're going to stick to that, then, yeah, they're going to need to find a spot for him somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
Logically, RB, they're not going to throw him into Red Bull straight up.
Yeah.
Who else is there a bit of chat about?
So Behrman, obviously he had his drive couple race weekends ago for Ferrari.
I feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like he sort of just jumped to the forefront. Before that race, there was a little bit of, you heard the name here and there, but after that performance, it's like everyone's, he's a lock. He needs to be racing in Formula One.
Yeah, I think he'd done a couple of FP1s. I can't remember if he was doing Haas or if he was with Ferrari, but I know he did at least one with Ferrari because he was up there with, I think he was up there with Leclerc when he did that FP1, whenever that was, and people were starting to chatter about him.
I do feel like I remember seeing him in the Haas last year in a practice session.
Yeah, he had the agreement this year that he was to do so many practice sessions with Ferrari and with Haas, and I think it was probably, he was going to start to be a name on people's lips, and then he's jumped in the car and shown what he can do in a race weekend.
The only downside about that is the De Vries factor.
Yeah.
De Vries did the same thing, and then I guess the good thing is he's not racing for Red Bull. Ferrari aren't necessarily as cutthroat as Red Bull.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a hard one. If Ferrari were to put in a younger driver, would they be keeping them for as long? Like, they're not typically one to put in a young driver, so if they did put in someone young, would they keep him as long as someone like a Red Bull? They just seem hesitant to make that decision anyway.
Another name that's taken off something fierce is Antonelli. There's a lot of chat about Antonelli and what Mercedes are going to do with him. Well, given that he literally skipped F3 this year and he's straight into F2, if he does perform well, where does he end up?
Yeah, and he's somewhat locked into like the Mercedes driver academy, so whatever they decide to do with him, Toto makes a call, puts him in somewhere, keeps him on a sideline. Don't know, but obviously been a lot of chat about him as well.
And the thing is, they want to give him an opportunity because you don't want to leave the next generational talent. Like if he's the next Verstappen, you don't want to leave him open for potentially another team to jump in and sign him because that would be devastating.
Because you got, I think it was Helmut Marko with Max Verstappen when they first put him in. People told Helmut that he was crazy. Like, what are you doing? It's such a stupid risk. He's so young.
He was 17.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he might have even been younger. I'm not sure.
Which is insane to think about.
But yeah, whatever age, I know it was insanely young. And he put him in and he said, "Yeah, come back to me in 3 years' time, then we'll talk." Like to all the haters, And now look, so potentially Kimi Antonelli could be the next Max Verstappen, and putting him in, people might say, "Oh, you're crazy," and then in 3 to 5 years' time, he might be, dominating. So
yeah, you don't want to let him slip through the cracks and miss out on that next talent. You want to give him a run early if he has the talent. Don't let him mess around in those lower categories.
Yeah, I know it can be a risk to take, but the potential for what they could miss out on as well. So
it's mental to think, though, 17 years old.
Yeah.
I think back when I was 17, I had my P plates and I thought I was a racing car driver in a Hilux.
Yeah. Talent and ambitions getting in the way of each other.
But you think chucking these blokes in high horsepower, some of the top sports racing cars in the world, it's pretty mental. A lot of talent there. What other names have been thrown around as potential considerations?
So over in the Aston camp, you got Dragovic.
Yep.
Sitting on the sidelines there.
Who else is floating around?
Pretty talented driver. You got Jack Doohan, the young Australian. You got Mick Schumacher and Teo Pourchaire. I think there's Pat O'Ward as well in McLaren. I think that just about rounds out a lot of the reserve and names that are floating about on the sidelines at the moment.
Mick's an interesting one, but yeah, I don't know what's going to go on there. But let's jump into our predictions, and we'll run reverse constructors of 2023.
Yep.
Let's go with Haas first. Fire away, Freezer.
You want me to kick it off?
Yeah.
So I've gone Hulkenberg and Behrman.
Sweet. I've got the same too.
So yeah, I feel like they're in need of a bit of a change. I know the last 3 races have seen them do some all right performances, but I'm still basing this off previous anyway. And yeah, I just think they need a younger driver in there and someone with a bit of experience at the same time. I'm not really sure if it really matters who, so I just kind of went for Hulkenberg. Just seems to be a bit more consistent. So
yeah, I had the same thought process. I did think it was a little bit weird when they signed Hulkenberg and Magnussen. However many years ago that was now, 2 years or so. But
yeah,
it just seemed like a bit of a weird pairing. It's almost like they were banking on having a decent car and chuck 2 experienced drivers in there to compete and get them points and push them up the standings.
Yeah.
So to finish last and still have 2 experienced drivers there doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you could have a younger guy in there, getting the experience and growing as a driver.
Yeah.
And you could build, it's a bit rough because, if the driver's really good, they'll probably lose him to a top team anyway. But having that opportunity to grow and shine instead of having 2 already seasoned drivers that what you're going to get. And Magnussen has been just that little bit behind Hulkenberg. So I think Hulkenberg has to get that seat.
Yeah.
But it's a long year. Anything could happen.
I think Hulkenberg will be a good kind of benchmark for Behrman as well. Like, he should be able to show where the car can get to in qualies, because Hulky's been able to pull out a few good quality performances. So, and
that's where my mind goes to as well. Like, you want someone for Behrman to be compared to and someone to push him. You don't want him. If you did have 2 rookies in the team, it's a little bit hard to see where they're at. But if you've got someone that is great in quali and he's decent on race day, it's just the car that's sort of been letting him down. It would be a good benchmark.
Definitely.
You're right. Kick Sauber.
Old Alfa Romeo. Do you want to shoot away with that one?
Well, I've gone with Teo Pourchaire to spice things up, and Valtteri Bottas, I reckon, retains his seat. So again, similar setup. Young driver, keeping some experience there.
Yep.
Don't know what's going to happen in the coming years with them when they transition over to Audi, but I think it's time to switch it up. And I don't think Zhou's done enough to hold on to that seat. He's not that he's been bad, but
so I've thought similar to you as well. I've gone Bottas to remain and Toe Pourchaire to come in, and similar. I don't know if Zhou's done enough. I was considering Sainz. That's obviously not in Ferrari because of that Hamilton confirmed transition that obviously we'll get to a bit more later on. So I was considering him coming in ready for the Audi, but I think with the way Sauber are performing and a driver of Sainz's capabilities, I don't think he'd be to come down. So that's why I went for the new driver in.
Yeah. I swear we do have differences as well. We haven't got the exact same predictions for 2025, so we will spice it up here in a bit. We'll jump on to the next one, AlphaTauri, or now known as Cash App, something RB, credit cards, something or other, sellouts.
Yep.
Who have you got for the driver lineup for 2025, Freezer?
This is another one I was tossing up between. So I had Lawson coming in regardless, and I was tossing between whether Tsunoda or Ricciardo stays. So judging off some past performances, I have kept Tsunoda in the remaining seat there. I think Danny Rick's just got a bit too much pressure on him, and Tsunoda's been showing some good results.
Hurts, doesn't it?
It does. It really does hurt to say it.
I've done the exact same thing and had the same thought process. As much as I want to keep Danny in that seat, these first 3 races he's been so far off of Yuki that I just really can't see him going head and shoulders above Yuki to then potentially move up. I think, more than likely this will be his last year in a seat in Formula One.
Yeah.
And I've gone with Lawson as well. So
yeah. And there was the talks, obviously, of Ricciardo potentially pressuring Perez for his race seat. But I was kind of for that initially. But
same here.
Just on some more recent results and after breaking his hand and all that kind of stuff, he's had a few good results, but a few quite poor ones as well. And I know we've got the luxury of the first 3 results of this season, and they've been quite telling. So
definitely sways our...
He's still got a lot of races left. What is it, 21 races left in the season? So he's still got a bit of time to prove himself, but I think, Tsunoda might come out on top on that little seat battle.
Fingers crossed. We can see a bit more from Danny, but who knows?
So into Williams. Who have you got there, Sticks?
So I've got Alex Albon retaining his seat at Williams for 2025, and I've chucked Antonelli in that second seat at Williams. Thought process, more or less, get him some experience. However many years it may be at Williams, and then potentially move his way up to the big team at Mercedes.
Yep.
But what about you, Fraser?
Similar thought process. I've brought Antonelli in.
Yep.
So, being that Mercedes Academy, they've obviously got links with Williams, so thought a similar thing. They might bring him in there and get him a bit of experience. But the experienced driver that I've put him with is Sergio Perez. Yeah.
Our first difference. Finally.
Yeah, so I've thought... So obviously that tells that I haven't remained Perez in the Red Bull seat. So I've gone for he's quite an experienced driver. He's been around a few different teams. So I feel like that he would be open to go to Williams, and Williams would be open to take him being a race winner, multiple race winner.
Push Albon as well.
Yeah. Well, Albon won't be there. Antonelli will be.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Fair.
Not in my lineup anyway. Your lineup, he might be. Yeah. And even though it's a completely new driver lineup for what I've written for Williams, that obviously means we've both put Sargent as not getting a seat. So benchmark's obviously either going to be Albon, who's already shown what can be done, or Perez setting a new benchmark. But, if they do go something similar to what I've got, they end up with having two new drivers and not really knowing where their car should be. So that might be a risk that they're not willing to take.
I mean, Perez is a proven Formula One driver, so I guess you could back him in to try and get the most out of the car.
You'd like to think that where Perez is putting the car is where it would be, but it's whether they see it that way.
He's not great on a Saturday. He shines on race day. So, there's that factor.
Is he putting the Red Bull where it's meant to be? So
Alpine,
I've remained the same. Ocon and Gasly, French team, French drivers.
Same here.
Yeah.
No change here.
I think even though the start of this year they've been
bad,
quite shit. I think they will improve a bit during the season, and I think money will talk as well. So I think they'll pay to keep their French drivers and appeal to their sponsors that way.
And they've got two good drivers there. It's not like they're just tagging them along for the French from the French point of view or whatever. They're both genuinely decent drivers.
I think that one, depending on performance for the remainder of the season, would be more wanting, like the drivers wanting to stay rather than the team wanting the drivers, because I don't think there's any doubts that regards.
Yep.
I think it's them, having incentives or, having a car that the drivers want to continue to drive.
Right. We might jump into a quick break and then jump back in with our top 5 teams.
Sounds
and
good.
Their predictions for 2025. And we're back. So straight back into it. Aston Martin. Freezer, who have you got for 2025 driver lineup? Aston Martin.
So I've gone for the Money Talks theme again, and I've remained with the same driver lineup. So I think Stroll's not going anywhere. And I think they will pay to keep Alonso there.
Stroll's basically on his own time, isn't he? If he can stay as long as he wants, or if he decides to pull the plug, then he can take off.
Yeah, I think Stroll would have to see something better and it'd have to be in a different, well, not different sport, but different discipline of motor racing. Which,
you never know. He might. It's a hard one, isn't it? Because you really don't know what he's thinking. Half the time in interviews, he looks like he's having a horrific time, but that could purely be he's got no enjoyment on that side of the job, having to sit there and answer questions. But I've got the same. I've thought that he will hang around next year.
Yep.
There's just too many links there, and I don't really see him going anywhere, unfortunately.
I've also your remaining seat.
So I've switched it up, and I've got Perez at Aston Martin in 25.
Yeah.
I think, so I've clearly got Alonso going elsewhere, but I think Perez will replace that Alonso seat. I think they'll want experience in a decent driver, plus those two have paired up before. And
I think that's not a bad shout from you with Perez and Stroll being teammates previously with BWT, so still a similar team and similar crews, wouldn't be a bad idea for them.
And I think they worked well before. I can't remember any sort of big clashes or anything being reported, so that'd be sort of a seamless transition, so to speak.
Yeah, I think Perez did quite well on a couple of races there too, didn't he?
Yeah, didn't he? He won, didn't he?
Yeah.
All right, so the next two teams are probably going to be pretty quick. So McLaren, I've got Lando and Oscar.
Yeah, Norris and Piastri aren't going anywhere
on
from
longer
what
deals.
I'm seeing. So
Ferrari.
You've got that Hamilton confirmed rumour of signing and Leclerc's long-term contract. So
those two will be locked away, which, just quickly, what do you think of that driver lineup? Charles and Lewis.
Well, initially I thought it probably wasn't the best idea from Lewis. switching to Ferrari, and he's been with Mercedes. I'm pretty sure it's 11 years, and was it 7 championships? I think he won them all there. To then throw all that away and like he almost is Mercedes. But then seeing these first few 3 races, maybe he knew something that no one else did yet. Had a bit of an insight. He's probably had that deal from Ferrari waved under his nose a few times. Had him on speed dial, ready to go, and then gone, stuff this, I'm out.
Well, he would be, if he was racing for Ferrari now, for these first 3 races, he'd be a lot further up the driver's standing than what he currently is with Mercedes.
Yeah.
So that does say a lot. And obviously it's a long season. We don't know how it's going to pan out, but it could be a dynamic setup next year.
Yeah.
I think Charles will push Lewis and vice versa.
I think
Lewis will push Charles along.
Definitely. It'll be interesting to see 2 things. One, with these 2 pairing, what team orders are going to look like and how many will get back to use and how many long pit stops. They seem to have kind of gotten a bit better with that stuff. And secondly, Sainz not driving for Ferrari. Be interesting to see how that pans out. And
I also think this could take Charles to the next level. If he can pick up bits and pieces of Lewis, he's already a great driver, but if he can get those little learn bits and pieces, he could take his driving to the next level as well. And having that challenge, not that he doesn't have a challenge there now, but it's probably more expectation to prove yourself against Lewis. That could be a positive for him as well. All right, Mercedes. The last 2 teams now. So
Mercedes, I've obviously got Russell to remain and the empty seat left by Hamilton to be filled by Alex Albon.
Ooh.
I think that ties from the Williams to the Mercedes and the way he's been driving. Maybe a bit more so last season compared to the last couple of results he's had. But I think as this season pans out, he'll show again what he's capable of.
I like that driver lineup. I rate that. Albon deserves a promotion.
Yeah.
And those 2, it would be an interesting setup because those 2 are mates.
Yeah, good
outside
mates
outside of the cockpit. So yeah, to be in the same team and put that pressure on, it would be interesting to see how they'd go with that.
And it would be a kind of a long-term lineup. I guess it's just, does it end up being almost like a Rosberg and Hamilton, or Hamilton and a Bottas or someone like that? Like, do they take away from one just, excels? Like, say it is Russell, for example. Russell just goes on to start winning championships left, right and centre because Mercedes have developed this untouchable car like the Red Bull is currently. And then, does Albon just get lost in the limelight being a similar age, similar driver? Or,
I think
what could happen?
If they don't push each other, keep each other honest, then one will lose their seat.
Yeah.
Being both similar demographic, which is good. Puts the pressure on.
Yeah.
Pushes for good racing, but that also, high tensions in that garage.
Yeah, for sure.
I've gone for Russell, who's obviously contracted, but I put Fernando in that seat.
I don't mind it.
My thought process behind that is obviously Fernando's hungry for another championship or hungry for a car that he can win races in. But I also think he's, how old is he now? 42, 43, something like that.
47. He's up there.
He probably doesn't have too many years left in the sport at the top level. So my thought process purely is he'll race there for a year or 2, and then I can see potentially an Antonelli or an Albon at that point getting promoted. So that's where my mind went to with their lineup. But it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. Have you got his age there?
I have. So Alonso is 42. And he'll have his birthday on the 29th of July.
Right, so he'll be 43 before season's out. So, yeah.
So contract for next year will be signing a 43-year-old.
I wonder what the oldest Formula One driver is in recent time, because I'm sure back in the day they probably had some older blokes driving.
But let's have a quick look. I'll see what I can find.
Typically speaking, Formula One drivers don't last very long unless they're a champion. Early 30s usually pull them up unless they're a gun. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see. So Hamilton's 36 or so. Bottas, I think he's around a similar age. So I guess he probably bucks the trend somewhat.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of results in 50s and early 60s.
As in the decade they were racing or their age?
Their last race.
I was going to say, if there's 60-year-olds out there whipping Formula One cars, that's insanity.
Well, the top 10, 50s and early 60s, I'm definitely going to mispronounce these guys because I don't know how to actually pronounce their names, but bear with me, fanatics. You got Louis Chiron, 58. Luigi Plate, 56. Felipe Intancelin, 55. Arthur Legat, 54. Kurt Kunke, 53. Luigi Fagioli, 53.
Like, that's pretty crazy.
Pierre Ducier, 52. Adolf Brudez, 52. Hans Stuck, 52. Hans Stuck, sorry. Hans Stuck. Jack Ensley, 52. So we've got, 58 to 52. But I'm not sure who the interview was by, but someone did say that, like, the racing these days, it's a young man's game.
Proven by how all the oldest are back in the 50s and 60s where you're not pulling the G-force that you are now.
Yeah.
So, regardless, like, Fernando is definitely one of the older drivers of the modern era. He surely can't have too many more years left at the level. We'll jump on to Red Bull, the cream of the crop.
Cream of the crop. At the moment, anyway. Who knows what the future holds?
Yeah, true. So, lead us away, Fraser. Final team.
So, I've gone Carlos Sainz and a change up. Max Verstappen will remain.
Surprise.
No, there was a lot of rumours of him going to Mercedes and Jos, his dad, pushing, not having a good relationship with Christian Horner and all that other stuff. But
if that did happen, how insane would that be, though?
Oh, that'd be huge.
It would be
what we've got
mental.
Bloody noted down here, I'd throw this out and I'd start fresh. It'd be a whole new look of a lineup.
And can you imagine if Verstappen went to Mercedes and started beating Hamilton in his old car?
Oh,
like, that would be off its head.
Wow.
But that's probably dreaming a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I've got the same lineup as you. I can see Sainz, because he's got ties to Red Bull from back in the day. I can see those two racing and doing a good job.
Yeah. And weren't they teammates when it was Toro Rosso?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have got a little bit of a teammate,
They've worked together before, so, you never know what's going to happen with two drivers, especially when, potentially a championship is on the line.
Yeah.
Carlos in maybe the fastest car on the grid.
And the way Carlos has been driving in the Ferrari, I think...
Can you imagine those two push at each other?
It'd be worth a shout for Red Bull to have a look.
It'd be incredible to see Sainz and Verstappen both pushing each other for a championship, even if it's the same team and they're both fighting for the drivers' champ. It would be amazing to see.
Yeah.
But probably dreaming a little bit.
Max Verstappen might not have that gap Stappens anymore.
He might be back to regular Verstappen.
Might have to.
Well, so that's our driver predictions for 2025 wrapped up. We will check back in with this. Normally the drivers are announced and done and dusted by...
It's around about their summer break, which is our winter.
Yeah, so I guess December-ish.
They start to get around that silly season. So just after mid-year, there might be a few more rumours and...
A few things might change in the mid-season. I was thinking December is probably when the driver lineup for 25 would be
pretty well
squared
locked.
away.
Yeah.
So we'll have to come back to this and see how close we actually got.
Yep.
But thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Chuck us a 5-star rating if you don't mind.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Give us a review or two. Tell us how we can do better. That would be muchly appreciated.
Yeah, we're always open to some feedback.
And we will catch you in the next pod, which will be a race review of the Japanese Grand Prix.
It will.
Can catch you there.
Thanks for listening.
Talk to you later.
Catch ya.
Bye.
Look at this. This is not a dog. This is a piece of shit.